So Mussolini, when he gains power, he's going to need to have the support of the powerful players in Italy, and those two powerful players are business and the church, the Catholic Church. And Mussolini is smart enough to basically gain a sort of protection from both of these agencies by not interfering with what they did. So Mussolini becomes a champion of business because he's in opposition to communism, which would remove any free enterprise and create some kind of state-sponsored system. Although later he's going to have this whole idea of this corporate state, which is very bizarre and wasn't ever fully thought out. Generally, business sees Mussolini as a friend and that he won't interfere, whereas in communist Russia, businesses were taken over by the government. And the other deal he makes is with the church, which is odd for Mussolini, because before the war he was considered anti-clerical. Anti-clerical means you're against priests, you're against the church, you're against Catholicism. And he was adamant against the church before the war. Again, he knows this is not going to win him popularity he realizes at least it won't win him popularity in Italy. So he makes a deal with the Catholic Church where, the Catholic Church is not going to interfere, especially with his dictatorship. They're going to remain quiet on it by giving them a certain status within Italy. And what happens is they create the idea of Vatican City. And Vatican City today is a nation. It's the smallest country in the world, and it's basically an enclave inside Rome itself. So, and what Mussolini basically says is, I won't interfere what happens inside the Vatican City. We'll call this a new nation within our nation. And there's some deals made about Catholic Church property and how the Catholicism can be taught in the schools. These deals are made as well with him. So he basically removes any threat from his power by making deals with these powerful forces. And part of Mussolini's appeal, especially in the early days, is based on his use of pageantry and use of propaganda. Mussolini was a master at the show, really. And what I mean by the show is, men marching in uniform, looking, very proper, and having the flags waving, and these huge mass rallies. And oftentimes we think of these images with Hitler, but even Hitler will recognize and saw, in the beginning at least, that Mussolini was the teacher in this area. Mussolini knew how to set up a show that could influence people. And we now know in terms of psychology that anytime you're in a mass audience, tens of thousands of people, part of your brain basically switches off in terms of certain areas of reason. We're not really sure why, but you're in a very dangerous situation when you're in a mass group. You're easily swayed by the crowd. The crowd can be very emotional, which can cause you to tears. For example, maybe you've ever been at a concert, a music concert, where there's tens of thousands of people, maybe at a stadium, and you have your lighters going or something like this, and maybe you break out into tears. I know myself, I've been in that situation sometimes. And the songs that sound so much more beautiful, and you're with all these people singing along and such. Well, that kind of feeling that you might have experienced is what you might also experience in a political rally under the same kind of conditions, where you feel you're being one with the people around you. The other danger is that because of this, it becomes almost like a spiritual experience when you're in a mass rally. You're easily persuaded for maybe possible later action. You're also dangerous in terms of violence. A crowd can easily be persuaded to violence. And Mussolini maybe instinctively understood how to play the crowd. And like I said, Hitler will follow these as well. But a lot of it has to do with the way things look and the uniformity of things. So if everyone's wearing the same outfit, if everyone is raising their arms in a certain way, and he's going to have, his own versions of salute and the patches and the flags waving and certain slogans being repeated again and again. Think of yourself maybe at a football game or something where you have everyone in the same colors, and how the crowd is becomes so energetic and such. That idea, or that kind of gathering of people in that way, was new to history in the early 20th century. We'd never seen a political rally with such large numbers. And there's new technology that's coming out in the interwar years that persuade people in a new way that they've never been manipulated in a way before, and that's through radio. We forget that people, were able to purchase radios in the 20s and 30s, and it was their only source in many ways of information. And if your only source of information is viewed as being authentic and not to be manipulated, and you don't question it, then it's like this voice of God practically coming out of that radio. And there's no alternate stations to tell you something else. If I was one station, it'd come on a certain time of the day, the whole family would listen to it. And so Hitler and Mussolini and many other people are gonna use media in a new way. Hitler will also use film in a very important ways as well. But these are new technologies, new ways of persuading the masses. And when we talk about the 20th century, we want to use this word often because there's such a population boom that happens in the 18th and 19th centuries, that in the 20th century it all comes to fruition. That in the wars, millions dies, in World War I, and in World War II, tens of millions of people are going to die. And the way that media is employed is very important. And when we think of today, we think it's all about the TV, but then it was all about the radio, especially in the early days. And these politicians become masters at manipulating people through media. Mussolini, as I said, he's not going to gain full dictatorial powers in the sense that of a true totalitarian system that's basically Stalin creates maybe the most strong version of that. Even Hitler will only approach certain levels of that. Mussolini would be the least of the totalitarian governments, maybe. But like I said, he does have full power, and his only goal is to gain more power. And he participates in trying to increase his military, into involving himself in conflicts against his neighbors, and in gaining territory that was not given to Italy, that was promised during World War I. In 1936, he's going to attack without any reason the country of Abyssinia, which is today Ethiopia. He's going to use poison gas for the first time on a civilian population. He's going to release his airmen are going to release poison gas over the Ethiopians, and he's trying to right historic wrongs. Italy lost a war to Abyssinia in the 1880s, and he was going to regain this territory. He's an imperialist in terms he wants to gain colonies. He wants to expand an empire. He views himself as the next Roman, maybe Italy being in the next Roman Empire to regain glory and such. The League of Nations is going to seem powerless against Mussolini, and this is when the first doubts about collective security are really going to happen, because they can't control Mussolini. Some sanctions will be waged against him, and the relationship to Hitler is going to get closer as the years pass, but Mussolini will be the junior partner to Hitler, even though Hitler once saw him as his teacher.